Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Senate, this meeting is now called to order.
In behalf of the House, this meeting is called to order.
Chairman's directing the committee secretary to recognize our members as well as our guests and resource persons for this morning.
Good morning. I would like to acknowledge our guests and resource persons for today's joint congressional hearing. From the Department of Energy, ASEC Gerardo Arguisa, Undersecretary Pete Ilagan, ASEC Redentor de Lola, Director Maylene Kapungkol. From the Board of Investments, representing Attorney Raul Angeles is Mr. Dexter Pajarillo, Senior Investment Specialist. From the Department of Trade and Industry, representing Secretary Ramon Lopez is also Mr. Dexter Pajarillo. From the Bureau of Internal Revenue, Attorney Jessica Napala. From the National Renewable Energy Board, representing Attorney Jose Layug is Mr. Juan Antonio Bernad, Vice Chairman, NREB. From the Energy Regulatory Commission, Commissioner Gloria Victoria Yap Taruk, Commissioner Josefina Patricia Asirit, she's not yet here. Okay. Commissioner Geronimo Santa Ana. From the National Power Corporation, Mr. Urbano Mindiola, Vice President for Corporate Affairs. From the National Electrification Administration, Administrator Edgardo Masongsong. From the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation, Attorney Oscar Ala. From the Philippine Rural Electric Cooperative Association, PhilReca, General Manager Wendell Ballesteros. From the Renewable Association of the Philippines, Mr. Ariel Narida, President, and Ms. Claire Lee, Director. From the Confederation of Solar Developers of the Philippines, Mr. Rinaldo Casas. That would be awesome.
Thank you, Comsec. Just a brief...
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Point of inquiry. May I know where the Secretary of Department of Energy is?
I think, ASEC, can you give us some information?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, our Honorable Committee. We beg the indulgence of the Honorable Committee. The Philippine Energy Office or the Department of Energy is hosting the ASEAN Ministers Energy Meeting. He opened the ceremonies this morning. At the same time, he's opening the ASEAN Energy Business Forum. This is the 35th yearly holding of this activity and other related energy activities for ASEAN. This is will be held from September 25 to September 29. At present, he is now convening all the ministers on energy until 5 o'clock to take up very important matters. The theme of the ASEAN activity is partnering for change, engaging the world. So they are basically making policy moves and implementing energy programs in the ASEAN region.
Well, thank you for that information. I asked because I think on the matter of the second agenda, which this representation requested this commission to include, I think his presence is very important. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
ASEC, there was a special request from Congressman Umali to discuss the supervisory authority of NEA and over the electric cooperatives, and there are some urgent matters that we need to discuss. Since we understand that there's a ASEAN Energy Ministers Forum being conducted here in our country. I would encourage you to please relate to him everything that we have discussed, as well as all the action recommendations that will come out from this discussion. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Just a brief opening statement, mga kasama. Actually, sabi ko siguro ito isa sa pinakamasipag na JCPC na organize dahil since February of 2017 when we first organized this group, this commission, we already conducted 3 meetings. This is the 3rd. The first one was really more of a briefing from DOE and the other touch agencies. The second one, meeting was to tackle the RE law and the things and the items that are not being implemented in the RE law. I think at that time, ERC also was represented, and they made some commitments regarding the decision on the FIT, the FIT. Unfortunately, during that time, we failed to discuss the fiscal incentives that were outlined in the RE law, which is also quite crucial in the development of the industry. So we will continue to discuss that. We have 3 items. Number 1, the fiscal incentives, as I mentioned earlier, under sections 15 to 24 of the RE Act. Then second, as requested by Congressman Umali, the Supervisory Authority of the NEA over the electric cooperatives under Republic Act number 9136. And number 3, an update from the Transition Committee that was recently formed to oversee the Philippine Electric Market Corporation's operation. So those are the 3 items that we will be discussing this morning. And before we go ahead with the presentations, may we hear from the co-chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to our guests, resource persons, to my members who are in full attendance today. As the world continues to modernize, the world's energy needs continue to exponentially grow. Hence, there is a need to revolutionize our energy supply. One such revolution happening can be seen in the renewable energy sector. As we can see, more and more people setting up solar panels on their rooftops, manufacturing technology in solar panels continue to improve, and prices are going down, resulting in the supply of cheap, reliable, and accessible energy. As the chairman of the House Committee on Energy and co-chairman of the Joint Congressional Power Committee, I am glad I could be of some help in steering our collective rudders toward the goal of providing cheap, reliable, and accessible energy to our countrymen. In today's hearing, we intend to review the effectiveness of the fiscal incentives being given to renewable energy companies. Are those incentives being optimized? Are the present rules sufficient to entice other budding RE companies to invest in the energy sector? Everyone should pull in their own weight in the energy sector. Electric co-ops who fail to do so should and will be taken to task by the National Electricity Administration. Today, we also look at the relatively new supervisory powers of the NEA, introduced under Section 6 of Republic Act number 10531, promulgated on July 23, 2012, and how the said supervisory powers is being exercised by the NEA against erring officials of electric co-ops. Finally, the JCPC takes a look at the recently reorganized, or should we say re-energized, Philippine electricity market, or the PEMC, and its role as steward of the wholesale electricity spot market. Last June 2017, the Mindanao Wholesale Electricity Spot Market was inaugurated. How is it faring? What are the challenges ahead? Today's hearing seeks to shed light on these issues in our earnest efforts to ensure the supply of cheap, reliable, and accessible energy for our country. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a point to be clear.
Yes, go ahead.
Before we start, I understand we have new officials of the members of the energy family. May we request that these new officials be introduced to the JCPC? Pakilala muna sila. Marami na ako hindi kilala dito eh.
May we request the members of the DOE as well as its attached agencies to introduce yourself.
Good morning, distinguished members of the Joint Congress.
Indicate your position na rin po.
Yes, I am Petronilo Ilagan, Undersecretary of the Department of Energy, specifically assigned to supervise the Consumer Welfare and Protection Office.
Good morning, I'm Assistant Secretary Rardo Aguisa.
Mr. Chair and the distinguished members of the committee, I'm Redentor De Lola, handling the Power Bureau, Assistant Secretary for Department of Energy.
Good morning, the honorable chairpersons of JCPC and members. I'm Mylene Kapongkol, officer in charge of the Renewable Energy Management Bureau, formerly handling the Electric Power Industry Management Bureau. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the members of the JCPC. My name is Dexter Pajarillo from the Board of Investment Energy Division.
Your Honors, good morning. Edgardo Masongsong, the NEA Administrator.
Your Honors, Goldelio Rivera, Deputy Administrator of NEA.
Right? Okay na po lahat ng DOE family, no?
What about ERC?
ERC.
From the Energy Regulatory Commission, sir, I am Attorney Aina Asirit.
Good morning po. I'm Gloria Victoria Yapturuk, one of the commissioners, Your Honor.
Good morning. I'm Jeronimo Santa Ana of ERC.
Where's your chairman? So, on behalf of JCPC, may we know who is now the OIC of ERC?
Our OIC Commissioner Chair is Alfredo Non. Unfortunately, he is on medical leave, sir.
Okay, after he who follows. Pakita na muna natin kasi ang problem mo yun si ERC.
Yes, sir.
So we would like to know exactly sino ang tatanungin namin mamaya.
Sir, all of us can would be able to answer for any concerns.
Who among you will be representing ERC as a whole?
Sir, all of us, sir, as...
Isa lang.
Okay. I think, sir, the next most senior is Commissioner Taruk.
Taruk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Congressman Fontabella. Before we continue, may we let me just recognize the presence also of NPC President Pio Benavides and Attorney Jessica Napala of BIR. And before I continue, we have 8 members present. I declare a quorum. And let's go ahead with the agenda. I think DOE will be the first one to present regarding item number 1.
Mr. Chair, Director Mylene Kapongkol of the Renewable Energy Bureau.
Go ahead, Director.
Magandang umaga po. I'm tasked to present the general incentives under Section 15 to 23 of Republic Act 9513 or the Renewable Energy Act of 2008. As we are aware, the RA Act of 2008 was enacted into law in December 2008. That is aimed at accelerating the development of the country's renewable energy resources. We call them Big Show: biomass, geothermal, solar, hydro, ocean, and wind, and includes hydro system. The policy declaration under the RE Act includes acceleration and the exploration and development of renewable energy sources, achieve energy self-reliance, reduce the country's dependency on fossil fuel, and minimize the country's exposure in price fluctuation brought about by foreign exchanges, and then adoption of clean energy to mitigate climate change, promote rural development in the country. Likewise, it is intended to increase the utilization of renewable energy by providing fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. So next is just to give you a snapshot of how the renewable energy is faring well as far as the capacity mix is concerned. So as of end December 2016, out of 21,423 megawatt of installed capacity, the RE holds about 32%, which we have 9% share from geothermal, 17% from hydro, 4% from solar, 2% from wind, and 1% from the biomass. So the capacity addition that we were able to realize since the enactment of the RE law is totaling about 1,800 megawatt, and there is additional, as part of the policy mechanism on net metering, we have around 6 megawatt of installed solar panels. In terms of power generation, from 2009 to 2016, our yearly generation is about 90,797 gigawatt hour, of which 24% is coming from renewable energy, of which 12% are injected by geothermal power plants, 9% hydro, 1% solar, 1% wind, and 1% biomass. Next in the slide is the milestone that so far we have accomplished from the enactment of 9513. As we all know, RA 95 was enacted in 2008. Between 2009 and 2010, we have issued the implementing rules and regulations, have developed the administrative frameworks for awarding RE service contracts and accreditation of fabricators and manufacturing. And then under the RE law, there was a new bureau that was created, which is the Renewable Energy Management Bureau. As part of management of the service contracts, the Department of Energy created what we call Renewable Energy Review and Evaluation Committee. So their task is composed of legal, financial, and the technical side of evaluation to determine whether or not a certain RE developer is capable of pursuing and meeting its project. We also, during this period, we have awarded some RE contracts, and the first National Renewable Energy Board was created and established. Likewise, in August of 2010, ERC issued the first feed-in tariff rules. In 2011, the National Energy Renewable Board has published, together with the Department of Energy, the National Renewable Energy Program, which is currently undergoing a review and updates po. So, and they're targeting end of December to come up with the revised or updated NREP. From 2012 to 2013, the ERC approved the FIT rates in July of 2012, issued the guidelines in the selection process of RE projects under the FIT system, and award of certificate of FIT eligibility under the Department Circular 2013 issued in May 2013. Likewise, we have started implementing the net metering program starting July of 2013. ERC likewise issued feed-in tariff allowance, payment, and collection guidelines, which is administered by the Transco and through the agreement with the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation. From 2014 to 2015, ERC approved the FIT-all rates of 4 centavos per kilowatt hour from 2014 to 2015. In October 2014, and effectivity date of January 2015. There has also been amendment in the installation target that the DOE has earlier promulgated. In April 2014, we have increased the solar installation target from 50 megawatt to 500 megawatt. Likewise, in April of 2015, we have increased the wind installation target from 200 to 400 megawatt. In the same manner, ERC issued FIT rates for solar in March of 2015 and wind FIT all rates in October of 2015. Under Section 15, there had been a lot of fiscal incentives that an RE developer may avail of. So these are the 7-year income tax holiday, duty-free importation of RE machinery, equipment, and materials, special royalty tax rate on equipment and machinery, 7-year net operating loss carryover, corporate tax rate after the ITH accredited accelerated depreciation, zero VAT added tax rate, cash incentives for RE developers operating in missionary areas, tax exemption on carbon credits, and 100% tax credit on domestic capital, equipment, and services. Likewise, under Section 16, there is incentives that an RE developer may secure their environment compliance certificate at the regional offices, while Section 17 talks about exemption from the universal charge. Section 18 talks about payment of transmission charge by RE developer. And Section 19 talks about hybrid and cogeneration system. And on Section 20 is a match dispatch for intermittent and priority RE technologies. Under Section 21, incentives for RE commercialization, there is this tax and duty-free importation of components and parts, 100% tax credit on domestic capital equipment and services, 7 years ITH, 0% value-added tax rate. While Section 22 talks about incentives for farmers engaged in the plantation of biomass resources, and on Section 23, there is tax rebate available for purchase of RE component. So as of July 2017, the Department of Energy has awarded 845 service contracts with a potential capacity of about 22,370 megawatts. And as of now, there is an installed capacity of 4,717 megawatt. Now, we go through the individual fiscal incentives. Under Section 15, incentives for RE projects and activities, the Department of Energy and the Board of Investment have come out with a memorandum agreement on how to implement the ITH duty-free importation of RE machinery and equipment and materials, and tax exemption of carbon credits. So as of the latest data from the BOI, we were able to provide incentives of about 1.6 billion pesos to the RE developers, while for the income tax holiday, around 3 billion pesos. The biggest of which are the geothermal and the hydro developers. Under Section 15, likewise, in the implementation of the special realty tax rate on equipment and machinery, the Department of Energy endorses to the concerned local government units the request for exemption or tax rate. And what we do, they should be a holder of service contract and registered as an RE developer in the Department of Energy. To continue, for the 7-year net operating loss carryover, 10% corporate tax rate after ITH, accelerated depreciation, and zero VAT added tax rate, it is now, what we are doing is we endorse this to the BIR, but I understand the BIR has to come up with the revenue regulation to implement these incentives. For the 100% tax credit on domestic capital equipment and services, again, the DOE endorses to BIR on a case-to-case basis the request for availment of the tax credit. So again, what is important is before the DOE endorses, they should be a holder of a service contract and has issued certificate of registration by the Department of Energy through the Renewable Energy Management Bureau. For the cash incentives for the renewable energy developers for missionary areas, as of June 2017, 3 project proponents have availed or was awarded the cash-based incentives, and this is the Romblon Electric Cooperative, SunWest Water and Electric Company, and Ormeco for its 2.1 Linaw Kawayan mini hydro power plant project. So we get this data from the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation. For the environmental compliance certificate, the projects such as ocean, solar, wind, tidal power, except for geothermal, are considered non-environmental critical projects. Thus, the filing can be done with the DNR EMB Bureau's regional offices. For the geothermal technology, if the capacity is 50 megawatt and above, it is considered an environmental critical projects, and therefore they have to file with the DNR EMB Central Office. If the project is a non-environmental critical project, which is 50 megawatt and below, they can file at the EMB regional offices. Under Section 17, exception from the universal charge, to date, there is no RE project that is registered and approved. So we defer to the Energy Regulatory for any updates on this. And as far as the payment of transmission charges, likewise, we don't see any existing regulations to implement this, or even NGCP. So they are treated as an ordinary user of transmission line. For Section 19, hybrid and cogeneration, as of this date, there is no hybrid or a cogeneration system that is registered or approved by the Department of Energy, but there is one potential RE developer for doing the missionary electrification in Sabang, Palawan. So we're currently evaluating the declaration of commerciality of a hybrid. It's a solar and diesel plant by a private sector. Under the intermittent RE resources, which is Section 20, the Department of Energy has issued circular in 2015 that promulgates the framework for the implementation of mass dispatch and priority dispatch. And if I may be allowed to show you a snapshot of how the stocking is done in the market. So first would be the PMIN. All power plants registered in the PEMC are prioritized. Second are the mass dispatch. So these are the wind and solar projects. And then priority dispatch is the biomass. Non-scheduled are large hydro projects. And then schedules are the conventional projects like coal. I think geothermal is part of this merit order dispatch. Next would be just to show you how many solar projects or wind are currently in the market. For solar, we have around in Luzon 325 megawatt with a dependable capacity of 232. In Visayas, it's about 458 megawatt and a dependable capacity of 387. Mindanao has 58 and dependable of 42. So all in all, there is around 842 megawatt of installed capacity for solar and a 662 dependable capacity. For wind, in Luzon, there is a total of 336 megawatt of wind power plant, dependable of 293. For Visayas, we have 90 megawatt of wind power projects and a dependable of 90 megawatt likewise. We don't have any wind power projects yet in Mindanao. So all in all, for the Philippines, we have around 426.9 megawatt of installed capacity with a dependable of 382. For biomass, in Luzon, we have an installed capacity of 87 with a dependable capacity of 66. Visayas has around 100 megawatt of installed with a dependable capacity of 83. In Mindanao, 35 and a dependable capacity of 10.
Mr. Chairman, with due respect, may I request for a suspension? I just want to approach the chair for a few questions.
Okay. Session is now resumed. Session na po for some clarification. But Mylene, can we wrap up? Okay, wrap up na po.
Yes, actually, as of now, for Section 21, incentives for RE, particularly on the accredited renewable energy suppliers and manufacturer, as of now, we have 15 accredited and they're availing the incentives as we endorse them to the BOI. For the incentives for farmers engaged in plantation of biomass resources, we will be going back to the Biomass Renewable Energy Alliance because based on the last agreement we had, they will craft the guidelines to implement. So as of now, what we're doing is on a case-to-case basis, we endorse the project for availment of the incentives. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mylene. And before we continue, maybe recognize the presence of Congressman Caloy Urbareta, who's representing the electric co-ops nationwide. Thank you. And now the floor is now open to questions for an orderly discussion. We'll start with Congressman Nograles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Mylene Kapongkol, were you present in the previous JCPC meeting? Because that was the time when I think Director Mario Marasigan was the one who attended as REMB.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was not present during that time. I'm handling the other bureau.
Thank you. When did you start being the OIC of REMB?
In August only, this year.
August of this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the previous JCPC meeting, I brought up a question for Director Marasigan, specifically on the problems that we are facing with the renewable energy. Most of the problems that I see and I have discovered is based on certain rights that have been deprived from the public. For example, in the Clark Economic Zone, there are certain applications for solar rights there that have not yet been granted. So these applications were, since it is pending, and it's pending for more than 6 months, the DOE, REMB cannot receive any further applications for that. So, according to Director Marasigan, the reason for such procedure is based on an office memo or a department circular. What is it? Would you know?
Sir, if I may get your question, this is pertaining, because the service contracting is
Yes.
done based on a blocking.
Yes.
And it's about one hectare per block. And if there is an application for, say, rooftop solar, before, they were not entertained by the Department of Energy because somebody is holding the contract area. But right now, what we have done is we asked the existing holder to come up with a letter of undertaken that
Holder is what? How do you define
the
holder?
service contractor, the RE
Okay.
developer.
Okay.
So if there's a building that is owned by another person and that entity is willing to put up a solar project, then it will be allowed to put the rooftop
Ito
solar.
kasi yung na-discover namin, ma'am, in the previous JCPC meeting. Sabihin po natin si landowner at saka yung service contractor ay magkaiba. Si service contractor nag-apply sa REMB sa area without the consent or knowledge ng landowner. Ang nangyayari, pinahihintulutan ito ng REMB. So pagdating ng panahon, si landowner gustong mag-apply, hindi tatanggapin daw ng REMB dahil nandun yun sa rules ng REMB. Ngayon po, yung hiningi po namin kay Director Marasigan, kung pwede niya isubmit sa JCPC itong mga rules niya. So ito, direct question, nasubmit po ba, Mr. Chair, sa JCPC? Kasi kung hindi pa po ito nasubmit, Director Mylene, we want to remind your office, you are the OIC, to submit these rules. Because as far as we are concerned, as JCPC, yung rule na yan, o yung mga procedure na yan, hindi po dumaan sa JCPC, and it was discussed in the previous meeting that the JCPC takes cognizance on this and wants to review it and perhaps pass a resolution to fix that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will submit, but as part of enhancing the service contracting management, we are now doing a letter of undertaking for a particular RE developer or service contractor that should a particular owner of a building is willing or will be entering into a solar rooftop project, they will be allowed.
So basically, inaban nyo na po yung patakaran.
Opo, part of enhancement na po namin siya.
I just got word that wala pang sinasubmit since the last JCPC meeting. Mylene, can you submit it within the day? Kasi na-issue na naman yan eh.
Sige
diba?
po, sir,
What Congressman Nograles was asking was already issued. So all you have to do is send it here. Tama?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So ba't hindi yung magawa kaagad? So can you send it within the day to us?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And before we continue, may we recognize presence of Senator Ligarda.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning. Yung isa pa po na na gusto kong i-point out, even to our DOE, in the first JCPC meeting, the DOE family promised to provide the JCPC with the JICA study, I believe, on the privatization of the Agus and Pulangi complexes. I believe that the JCPC has yet to receive a copy of this JICA. My concern, Mr. Chairman, is that the JCPC mukhang binabaliwala ata ng DOE and our energy family. Kung ganun yung trato nyo sa amin, sige, gagawa na lang kami ng mga resolution na hindi nyo alam. Kung ganyan, I think...
Can you respond to that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I will take responsibility in submitting all of these. I'll see to it that these are attended to. I may just manifest that insofar as those rules of overlapping are concerned, immediately after that, I understand that the Secretary immediately met with a group of Director Mario. It just so happened that this August, there was a assignment of directors, and Director Mylene was just took over as director for REMBI this August. But nonetheless, with respect to all of this, I will take responsibility in attending to this.
Mr. Chairman, I support the position of our colleague here, Congressman Nograles. I think we have to support his position here.
Agree, and ASEC, matagal na ito, no? And the guidelines are not new. It's been issued a long time ago. So all we are requesting is to furnish us those guidelines. The JICA study was made mention also in the past. Meron na raw yun. Hinihingi lang natin yung kopya. Can you do it within the day?
Yes, Mr. Chair. If all of these are available today, I will see to it.
It should be available because it came from your office that, I think kay Mario yata yun eh.
Mario, yes. But in event, Your Honor, since I have no personal knowledge, I would just like to make the reservation that if it's not available today, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I move that all those who will not submit the documents that they have promised to our commission will be held in contempt. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Nogales. They've promised that those two documents, no, those two documents that were mentioned earlier be submitted last today, but the last day will be tomorrow. No? And if not, then we will be forced to take up the motion of Congressman Nogales.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to make the reservation that this undertaking is going to be done on the premise that these were done already. For example, the rules on overlapping.
those were the representation of
Yes,
Director Mario in the past.
because
And,
she might be appreciating another thing, and what was done by Mr. Mario is
anyways,
another thing.
if
Yes,
you need
Mr.
if you need to review the transcript of the last hearing, you can do so. But it's very clear, no, in the transcript that those documents were being requested.
I will do that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Next person to inquire is Congressman Garcia. Do you have any question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. To Director Mylene, just wanted to clarify certain figures in your presentation. In one of the graphs in the power generation, it was indicated that solar, wind is only 1%. Is that right, Director?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes. But in our the availment of BOI incentives, it shows that solar and wind, both IT, well, mostly duties wave, siya yung pinakamalaki, no? Yeah. Is it in line with the projections of the DOE in terms of the contribution to the generating capacity? In line po ba siya, or there's something, there's a problem, that's why we're not able to generate as much, even if we've already provided much incentives to these producers?
Actually, Mr. Chair, in the power generation chart I presented, this is the actual power plant that is now operating as of end 2016. So as we all know, solar has about 16 to 19% capacity factor. Wind is about 25%, and biomass is about 72 based on the initial projection. Yung sa BOI incentives po, ito po yung from the start of pre-development stage, wherein when they were given the service contract and part of their compliance with the work program, they have to implement some of the equipment or purchase, at dun po nag-i-endorse na po kami.
So meaning ito pong 1% saan nyo ho nakikita aabot eventually once we're running full capacity?
Sir, as we increase the RE technology operating in the grid or injecting in the grid, mag-i-increase po ito.
Ano ho yung projection natin? Solar will be what share of the pie will they be able to?
Actually, kung i-base po natin dun sa existing National Renewable Energy Program, we're targeting triple the RE capacity. Based on the 2015 base reference year, we're targeting about 15,000 megawatt of RE technologies. And if you may recall, Mr. Chair, in 2014-2015, when we issued the installation target, the revised installation target, there has been a lot of solar and wind that came into operations in both in the Visayas and Luzon.
So triple meaning yung from what it is now, triple.
Opo,
So kung
yes,
nasa 1% tayo ngayon, 3%?
Yes, sir. Opo.
So yun lang rin talaga ho yung nakikita nating magiging contribution niya.
Sir, it depends on how the the RE project operates or inject into the grid. So ito po ay based lang dun sa end of 2016 data. So baka hindi ho ito full year din lahat. So based on the statistic, the power statistic that we have gathered in the Department of Energy, ang share lang po dito na lumalabas ng RE is about 24, na mostly are coming from the geothermal plants. For solar, 1% pa lang po, maybe because the other solar projects are still under construction po.
Director, yung for kasama ba sa program natin yung for the end users, consumers, residential? I know mostly this is for our producers, no? Pero for our end users, ano yung program natin to incentivize or to encourage them?
Yes, Mr. Chair, meron po tayong tinatawag na net metering. na as of now, we have around 6 megawatt o equivalent of net metering projects na nandun po, mostly are from Meralco franchise area.
But I think a problem rin sa net metering which was brought out in the last JCPC meeting is marami pa rin sa ating mga, especially the electric cooperatives, are not, hindi pa enabled no, for net metering. I think last time I also asked that, ano ba yung target natin also to make sure that most or all our electric distributors are able to provide this net metering feature.
Apo. Mr. Chair, sa ngayon po, we are having policy studies with the assistance of World Bank doon sa reviewing the net metering rules and procedure. Tinitingnan po kung ano yung mga barriers and how we will be able to improve yung participation ng ating mga households.
Sana lang, Mr. Chair, sana lang meron tayong target talaga when all or most of our distributors are able to provide this net metering service. Kasi if not, parang wala rin ganong kalaking incentives for our end users. And alam ko, nagiging problem with the solar farms, syempre it takes so much space. And to compare it with coal or the other types of power plants, hindi naman ganong kalaki yung naproproduce niya. No? So I think ang magandang option moving forward is really to take a look on how we can incentivize solar for our end users, residential or commercial, kasi lahat po ng mga bubong naka-ready no, para po malagyan ng mga solar panels. But parang kulang siguro tayo sa information campaign, baka kulang tayo sa incentive. And lastly, Mr. Chair, I'd like to siguro ask a recommendation from the DOE if kinakailangan ba magkaroon tayo ng another incentive program like kunyari what they have in California, yung California Solar Initiative, wherein they give rebates to end users. Is it something that should we pass a law or meron ba tayong dapat gawin? Meron ba tayong dapat gawin to make sure that talagang ma-take advantage natin all forms of technology available for us to make sure na, you know, both supply and demand side ay magtulong para maabot natin no, yung tamang mix in terms of power producing and pagdating rin sa demand reduction. So can you kindly submit a recommendation to Mr. Chair, if possible, can we request DOE to submit the recommendation with regards to initiatives or incentives for our end users? That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Garcia. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Going back to the point being raised by Honorable Nograles a while ago regarding the submissions of documents and other requests made by this commission. I think, Mr. Chair, that the Energy family is taking lightly the Joint Commission or the Power Commission. I'd just like to read an excerpt from the EPIRA law, specifically Section 62. In furtherance hereof, the Power Commission is hereby empowered to require the DOE, the ERC, the NEA, Transco, generation companies, distribution utility suppliers, and other electric power industry participants to submit reports and all pertinent data and information relating to the performance of the respective functions in the industry. Please take note that any person who willfully and deliberately refuses without just cause to extend the support and assistance required by the Power Commission to effectively attain its objectives shall, upon conviction, be punished by imprisonment of not less than 1 year, but not more than 6 years, or a fine of not less than 50,000, but not more than 500,000 pesos, or both at the discretion of the court. So I'd just like to remind everyone that the commission, the joint commission, the Power Commission, is not taking things lightly. So any request required from the Energy family, we require them to submit it on time and please submit them.
Mr. Chair, does that mean that acts and omissions are criminally liable?
Seems like it, Honorable Nograles.
Then we'd like to remind our secretariat, maybe we can direct our secretariat to review the transcripts and all the promises of the Energy family on all the documents that they promised to submit to the JCPC. And in our next meeting, Mr. Chair, if they have not submitted their promises, then we will show them the power of the JCPC. Now, I would like to remind the ERC family that you have also promised the JCPC to submit information regarding the universal charges, how this was broken down, the historicity of the same, including our stranded debt costs and how they were distributed and the sources of that. The JCPC is here for a purpose, and you are here not to entertain us. You are here to inform us so that we can be informed and we can pass pertinent resolutions to help the Philippine economy and the people. If you will be the ones who will block us, then we will not be shy in using Section 62 on you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that clear reminder, Congressman Nograles. And I would encourage and urge everyone, the Energy family, to go back to the transcript. And then I have a list of, pinahimay ko yung mga list of submissions. There are indeed numerous submissions that are requested. Paki-review na lang po yung transcript and please submit to us these no later than tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our staff is now coordinating with the staff of
Yes,
your office.
marami
for
ho
the
dito, ASEC
transcript.
are already, a lot of these are already issued in the past. No? So these are nothing new, no? Nothing that needs any computation or new issuances.
I'll take responsibility, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Next in line is Congressman Fantabella. Kong Noli, do you have any questions or queries? The father of EPIRA. Let me just remind the
No, actually, I
body.
don't have any question, but at this point in time, the EPIRA has been in existence for how many years? More than 10 years, di ba? 2002. 16 years. Now, I'd like to inquire whoever from the Energy family who can brief the JCPC the extent of the effect of EPIRA for such a period of time, whether it was relevant at this time or whether we can already abolish the JCPC or what. Because the Commission is only entitled to exist for 10 years, but this was already extended in the concurrent resolution. Now, we just like to take advantage of the existence of this Commission to more or less cater to the needs of the energy industry towards attaining this goal with the assistance of all the members of the Energy family. At this point in time, may we please be brief exactly. Hindi naman kailangan tayo mag-detail. Just tell us, effective ba yung EPIRA, and if so, up to what extent. Yung cost, yung reduction ba of rates before compared to the rates now, how is it relevant? And then, how does it affect the economy for the moment? Yun ang dapat maging kuha natin, ang concern ngayon dito. Kasi, puro tayo technical, detail. Let's try to make these things work. Kung sino ba sa Energy family ang pwede mag-briefing? May we start with President Benavides, who was one among those who was originally tasked to start with the preparation of the EPIRA law.
Mr. Chair, we are willing to be part of any group that would be studying the effect of EPIRA.
Pakibigyan mo kami analysis kung anong at this stage of the game.
I think at this stage of the game, yung renewable energy component na-develop. No?
Pero muna, basic concept when we envisioned the passage of EPIRA was reduction of rates or make rates affordable. Hindi naman tayo sinasabi cheap, no? Sinabi lang natin affordable. Ngayon, ang tanong ko at this stage of the game, okay ba yung rates natin? Magkano ba yung rates noon compared to the rates now?
Mataas yung rates ngayon. Pero sa
Then
isla,
why?
sa missionary area, ang rates namin is socially acceptable rates plus UCME. So yung mismong customer namin, ang binabayad lang between 5 to 6.
Hindi, wag muna i-dissociate yung missionary area kasi iba yun eh. Ang inaano natin, the rates as a whole. Kasi yung missionary area is an exception to the rule.
Yeah. Tumaas yung rates.
Magkano?
That is, hindi ko lang masabi kasi...
Yun lang gusto namin malaman. Is it still relevant?
Kong Noli, with your kind indulgence, no? When we organized JCPC in last February, we asked the DOE family to brief us, no, regarding the unimplemented provisions,
yes,
as well as the effects. Under IPIRA, the DOE is also required to submit to us, no, the JCPC, twice a year, the report on IPIRA. Since the agenda today does not cover that, with your permission and your indulgence, we will require DOE to once again update us based on those two reports that they are mandated to submit to us. No?
Sa next meeting lang.
Sa next meeting,
okay, sure.
Para we can tackle the 3 items on the agenda.
Okay, please.
But
thank you.
Please take note again, no, ASEC, that I think very elementary yung question ni Kong Noli eh. Ano ba yung effect, no, sa Filipino family, no? Maybe we can dispense with the jargon of your submissions, pero at the end, explain to us the effect to the Filipino family. That's very basic eh. No? Kung tumaas by rates, bumaba, no? So in the next meeting, which we agreed with the co-chair that gagawin natin to every quarter, that will be the next item, no, to tackle.
And then another question, Mr. Chairman. We meet only every quarter, right?
The mutual agreement po with the...
At this stage, can I suggest that we meet more often this time? Because of the concerns being brought about, we have the problem now with the ERC, we have the problem with the other members of the LG family.
Pwede po, we can discuss that with the members if they are amenable to meet more often. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We hope that we can also meet in the House of Representatives, not only the Senate.
Yes.
Because Congress is not only Senate. The
and
House
since
is the
from the looks of
from
the looks of the attendance, Kong Noli, parang kayo po yung pinaka-active.
Lagi naman ang Senate lang wala eh.
And ako ho, ano ho yun, I'm amenable to that suggestion.
I never aspired to become a senator.
I remember you advising me that when I talked to you before I ran. Anyways, the next in line is Kong Batocabe, Rodel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to everybody. May I ask Director Kapungkol to go back again to your first 2 slides? I just want to be clarified on your figures. The first 2 slides regarding installed capacity, gross power generation. Let's say, for example, in the installed capacity, according to your data, the installed capacity of RE, 9% is geothermal. Now, can you tell me which geothermal plant was established after the RE law? And then ilang megawatts to?
Mr. Chair, this pertains to all new and existing geothermal power plants that are operating.
So in other words, these are not established after the enactment of the RE law.
That came into operation is the 20 megawatt Maibarara power plant in Laguna.
Yeah, kaya ibalik po ninyo yung data na yon, because it's quite misleading because nagtataka ako, sabi ko, saan kayang geothermal ka ako after the 2008-2009 nagkaroon ng ganito karaki, 12%, 9%, you see, and then yung solar is 1% lang. So let me be clear. After the RE law, do you have any data? How many, let's say, for example, geothermal plant was established, hydro, solar, and how many, what is the percentage? So because ito po, pag binigay po niyo yan, we cannot know, we cannot determine the effectivity of the RE law because it includes other plants which have been built before the enactment of RE law. So, meron ba kayong data?
Yes, Mr. Chair. For hydropower, as of July 27, ang under commercial operation po is about 965 megawatt.
No. Ito ang pinag-uusapan po natin. What the reckoning period is after the enactment of the RE law. Because here, the office of this commission is to assess the effectivity, the efficiency of the law, the implementation of the law. So how can we do that if you're giving us data which are before the enactment of the RE law? So give me hydro after, solar after, geothermal after. Meron po ba tayo?
Mr. Chair, we'll just submit the list of power plants.
Basic lang to, Mylene. After 2008, ilan ang RE power plants na pumasok?
Actually po, we have around 1,800 megawatt. Kasama na ho doon yung mga na-convert from various laws to the RE law.
So, can you break it down after 2008? Ano yung mga, ano itong 1,008, ilan? 1,800?
800.
Yung pumasok sa RE law, o yung na-develop post-RE law?
We'll just get the data, sir.
I mean, on top of your head, I'm sure, meron kang idea. Yung lahat ng solar and wind, I'm sure after RE to. I'm sure. Geothermal, wala naman to after RE.
Meron po, yung 20 megawatt may Ibarara.
Isa-isahin mo na lang, madali lang naman to eh.
Sige po, sir.
Anyway, Mr. Chairman, the reason why I got confused is because the last time I forgot the office which presented, the applicants for FIT rates. In that table, in that matrix, the solar applications were all filled up already, and then yung hydro, wala. So, in other words, I was expecting a data wherein the solar comprised a huge percentage, a big chunk of the percentage among our renewable energy plants. So I was just surprised na mas malaki pa yung geothermal. Now, I could not even think of any geothermal, except sabi niyo, yung 20 megawatts. So at any rate, I do hope you can submit to us because I will now go to the next question. It's regarding now, the FIT rate. May I just now ask, how much is the FIT rate, let's say, for solar, for wind, for biomass, for hydro? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the primary intent of the RE law is to encourage investment in the renewable energy sector. So the FIT rate is also one instrument to encourage investors to engage in renewable energy. So let me now ask, what is now the present FIT rate for these different renewable energy plants?
Sir, Mr. Chair, for the run-of-the-river hydro, the approved FIT rate is 587.
When was this?
2012 when ERC issued the FIT rate.
Okay.
For biomass is 6.59.
Okay.
Wind is 740. And solar at 869. Ito na po yung mga degress rate. Initially, solar is 969 pesos per kilowatt hour. 968 po yung una. Now it's 869.
That is March 2015.
Apo, for solar.
per your presentation. I do hope you can present that, but because that is very important also. You know, the incentives for our renewable energy developers, you should have presented it to us. Because apparently, you forget to present one of the most important aspects of, you know, enticing players in the renewable energy sector. So I do hope, give it to us. Okay, let us go back now. Wind, when was it approved? Well, or was it reviewed already?
Sir, it's approved already.
When?
It's when ERC approved po in 2012, I guess.
2012. So, the latest approvals were only for, no, I think wind is October 2015 per your presentation.
2015, yes, sir.
We're only for solar and wind.
Mhm.
And then how much is solar now?
Solar is 869. sir.
Don't you think it is still very high? Considering now, you know, the cost of generation for solar is only about less than 3 pesos. See? So, by the way, who's the one reviewing the fit rates?
Sir, if I may, Mr.
The
Chair.
ERC?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr.
Just
Chairman,
to-
the ERC wants to be recognized.
Yes. Just to be able also to add to what the DOE has already explained, in 2012, it was then that the feed-in tariff rates per technology were decided by the ERC upon the application of NREB, the National Renewable Energy Board. At that time, the installation targets totaling about 750, 50 for solar, and then and other installation targets for other for the other technologies were considered in the determination of the rates. At that time, solar was 869. Solar was 968. Wind was 863. 853, biomass 663, and hydro 590. For solar, this has been reduced to 869 after the installation targets were also increased to 500 megawatts, from 50 to 500. So it stands now at 869 with all with the entire installation target already having been fully subscribed, but still with applications of over more than 500, if I am not mistaken, that are awaiting some kind of feed-in tariff eligibility, if at all. Wind
Excuse me,
was also
Commissioner Asirit, may I just ask you, now, if the installation target has been reached and there are still pending application, what does it imply?
they would then
No, what does it imply? From a business point of view.
then they are not entitled to the FIT, sir. There's no incentive.
What
that
I am
there is-
saying is, may installation target ka, lahat pumasok sa solar.
Yes.
And then meron pang
then the rates
nag-a-apply.
are, then it means that they've been incentivized, really, to go
Incentivized,
into the
and it is attractive.
Yes.
Tama. So in other
Yes.
words, based on your data on solar, ang solar pinaka-attractive. Tama.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us go again with respect to other
And then
developers.
for wind, sir, the second wind rate is at 740, but this one has also been fully subscribed already.
So
for
fully
the
subscribed
200.
ang wind.
Yes,
In
sir.
other words, they are also attracted to wind. Because from a business point of view, meron.
Yes, sir.
Maganda.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
740. Okay, next.
For biomass, this has been digressed to 659 and hydro at 587.
Okay, biomass. Has it been reached? The installation target has been reached?
Not yet, sir. Out of okay. Out of 200 megawatts installation target, the ERC has given a COC of 104, but DOE has already given a certificate of endorsement of 125. So the gap is, I am assuming that is in the process already of applying for a FIT COC.
So what is the
And then-
implication? Once, you know, the endorsement by, once you approve the applicants from endorsed by the DOE, it will be filled up. more or less?
Not completely, sir. There would, even with the 125, there would be about still 75
So,
megawatts.
That is for
Biomass.
biomass. So ang gustong sabihin ng biomass, hindi medyo attractive kasi kokonti pa. Hindi agad
If I am not mistaken, with biomass, there are issues also on the feedstock availability and the
Okay.
cost, which was also rising when there were a lot of applicants or developers wanting to go into biomass. Suddenly, the cost of the feedstock became quite prohibitive.
Hindi masyadong attractive. Okay. So, next.
And then for hydro, this has also been digressed to 587 out of the 200. Out of the 250 megawatts installation target, there is 34.6 megawatts with a COC fit eligibility. The challenge for hydro is actually the gestation period and the construction and infrastructure that is required in the development of the plant. That's
In
the
other
feedback.
words, the hydro is not attractive because, you know, it will take a long time for investors to recoup their investments, and they have to invest in infrastructure. And especially so that these are located in far-flung areas, in the rural areas.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's very much resource specific to a territory
Yes.
that might be prohibitive in terms of accessibility.
Okay. Now, let us go back now to the spirit and intent of the RE law. Attorney Commissioner Nasirif, will you agree with me that the spirit of intent of RE law, especially with respect to the fit rate, is to encourage developers to come, invest, and engage in renewable energy generation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in other words, that is also the office of that fit rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you analyze the efficiency or the effectivity of the fit rate, you also consider the people or the corporations or the entities coming in.
Yes.
So if there are few entities coming in, so there must be something wrong. There are other factors, as you said. Let's say in the case of biomass, you see the feeds. But the fit rate also
even for
might be also the primordial factor. Why? Let's say, for example, in solar, if the cost of generation of solar is less than 3 pesos, and yet we are giving fit rate as high as 8 pesos, talaga, as any rational businessman will really jump into solar. But let's say, for example, if you're just giving only 5 pesos plus to hydro, and I have to invest in infrastructure, and then it will take me years before I can recover my investment, why will I get in there? But let's say, for example, in hydro, you're saying, these are all in far-flung areas. These have, impact on the local economy, especially in rural development. When you invest in hydro, you invest in infrastructure, sinasabi nga ng gobyerno, build, the money will circulate in the local economy. So may additional positive effect in the local economy. I do hope you can consider that. And it's so unfortunate among all among hydro as one of the lowest. When in fact, kung iisipin niyo, napakalaki ang impact nito sa local economy, long term, and yet, ang bigay lang niyo is 5 point something. Now, if you compare that with solar, which is also, I hate to say this because it can compete with our food security, and then very low ang cost of generation, talagang dadami ang solar. So, what do you now intend? Do you have to review that in order to encourage, developers to engage in hydroelectric or hydro generation?
Yes, sir. Actually, the FIT rules themselves also provide for that. And in fact, the technologies that have not been fully subscribed are due for review by the end of the year. So that's 2017. There's a mechanism which actually triggers the Energy Regulatory Commission to do so after the data for the past years that it has allowed the system to be in place to be reviewed. That also is partnered with the fact that even NREB also may actually submit a new application based on new costs or where more accurate cost data may become available to allow them to make those computations. It's due at the end of the year, sir.
So you mean to say you have, these standards already in place? How now to review the review mechanism?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you submit, Mr. Chair, to this commission the review mechanism? Okay, so that we can study that, because apparently in other renewable energy projects, let's say in wind and solar, you have already adjusted the fit rate. So may we also be given a copy of that. And then at the same time, okay, as part of the ease of doing business, how do you think we can, let's say, for example, in application of fit rates, how do we think we can streamline the processes?
Congradel, with your kind indulgence, last question, so we
Yes,
can
yes,
accommodate the other members.
So, Director Kapungkol, may I ask, let's say, how do you plan to streamline yung processes, let's say, for example, in the granting of incentives? Kasi, per your explanation kanina, parang napakahaba ang proseso para, you can be granted incentives, including the fit rates. Do you have now a recommendation on how to streamline?
Yes, Mr.
And also, to streamline also your function with the ERC?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As far as service contracting is concerned, we're now implementing a 25-day service contracting process. We orient the applicant of the things that has to submit, and including the letter of undertaking na kung may overlap or yung owner ng land po ay interesado magtayo ng planta, then i-give up niya yung area. Binibrief na rin ho namin sila doon sa mga reportorial requirement nila, like compliance with the work program. And then we give them the checklist before we accept the application for service contract. We make sure na they comply. And if they fail, or kung may kulang po doon sa submission nila, doon sa service requirement, we will not accept them. Kung meron pang additional information that is required of the service developer, we give them 5 days to submit the lacking document. Sa ngayon din po, because we're handling around at 1,000 service contracts from the past, and yung iba dito ho, we're now automating yung monitoring, na kapag hindi sila nakakomply on a specific date, based doon sa kanilang work program na sinubmit po, we will prompt them, and then we'll issue a show cause order that would lead to possible termination or cancellation if they fail to comply. So we're making the service contracting as clear as possible in terms of parang wala na pong subjectivity.
Right? Thank you, Congred. Can Mylene pakisubmit na rin, no? Yung mga request ni Kong Rodel. Kong Kaloy?
Short lang. Last July, yung access to sustainable energy project, and EU conducted a seminar, a one-day seminar, and there were a handful of recommendations precisely to streamline and to put in some of the gaps between at naipasok mo na ba or yung mga recommendation doon?
Mr. Chair, there is already a draft circular, and I understand we will be doing the public consultation soon on the new process for awarding NPP or qualified third-party program using renewable or hybrid po.
More or less, can we get a commitment on the time table? Within the year ba pwedeng lumabas yung mga policies and guidelines from DOE?
Well, it will just go back to you on but we'll check if we can do the public consultation in the last quarter po, itong quarter na to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just last question on the net metering.
pagka merong akong solar panel sa bahay at may sobra ako at binato ko sa grid, magkano ang bili sa excess ko?
Mr. Chair, ang pagkakaalam ko po, kung ano po yung blended generation rate, yun po yung ibabayad sa inyo nung DU.
So kung ang benta ng DU sa akin ay 350 rin ang benta ko sa, pero yung fit rate nasa 8 plus 869, di ba?
Yung net metering po kasi is embedded in the distribution system. So ang pinaka-principle po sa pagkakaalam ko is you should be a net user, hindi ka ho yung generator na palaging nagbabato ng kuryente do sa distribution utility. Ngayon po, at the end of the year, I think there is an inventory or accounting of how much kilowatt hour is injected into the grid versus yung utilization po nung may-ari ng net metering. Yung mga binabato po sa distribution utility, ERC may clarify po, but I believe it's the equivalent to the generation rate that is paid by the customers of a particular distribution utility.
A few years ago, there was an application sa ERC regarding rulemaking policy on solar. Ano ba yung update natin doon?
That has already been approved. We already have a solar home system tariff, which is actually it's been promulgated already, and the DOE is using this to enable the installation of solar home system panels in partnership with, if I'm not mistaken, it's a World Bank project with identified areas, so that it's the electric utility who now actually is able to maintain these installations, so that previous experiences of the system just being left to nasisira lang, sir, or minsan nawawala, ganon. The electric cooperatives, electric utilities actually now have in place both the ability to be the ones to maintain, and therefore we ascertain the sustainability of these panels. If I'm not mistaken, nasa 30 watt peak, 50 na? 50 and 30. Yes, 50 and 30 watt peak.
How many are existing na projects na ganon? I believe ito yung project ng World Bank, kaya libre sana yung
battery.
Yes.
With
Were we
battery.
able to make use of the funds?
If I'm not mistaken, it's I saw a DOE press release. Director Mylene might be able to give us an update.
Yes,
If I may, Mr. Chair, way back 2012, we have developed what we call PB mainstreaming. Kasi po, yung project namin under Rural Power Project is to devise innovative ways on how we will increase access to energy, and at the same time ensure that there is sustainability. Kasi for the past decades, ang nangyayari lang po, itatayo lang po yung solar and then iiwanan na ho. So nangyayari, after 6 months, after 1 year, nawawala po. And when we try to introduce private sector, medyo mababa pa yung appetite nila to engage in solar home systems, yung magmamarket sila isa-isa. So we thought of devising a new business model for the electric cooperatives na magtatayo sila ng isang maliit na grupo dun sa kanilang organization that will delve into what we call PB mainstreaming. So hindi nila i-waive yung area, sila pa rin po yung mag-identify ng mga households that are deemed feasible for off-grid electrification. Pero ang concern po during that time is wala pong regulated rate. And as a distribution utility, they will not be allowed to collect any fee from any consumer kung hindi po sila approved ng Energy Regulatory Commission. So what we did was to facilitate through PhilReca yung application ng regulated tariff for PV mainstreaming. So right now, under the EU ASAP program, there is about 10,000 households that were bidded out by various electric cooperatives. Sa mga co-ops pa lang po tayo nag-start ngayon. Kasi most of them are located in the remote areas.
Right,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Kong Mali, do you have any questions regarding RE? Ako have isang question lang, and this is actually a request ng mga RE developers, Mylene. Yung zero-rated benefits or incentives, hindi nila nakiklaim to eh.
Yes, sir. Actually, it's one of the challenges right now for RE developers and the DOE because right now, as I understand, wala pa pong revenue regulation.
Well, andito yung BIR. Maybe you can tell her directly, no? Kaya namin in-invite eh. Alam ko yan.
Kasi we have been endorsing.
So can you voice out your frustrations and your recommendations?
Ay, ma'am, baka may updates po.
So, nagpadala na kayo ng sulat sa kanila?
What we're doing right now is...
have you triggered it at least?
Yes, sir. Actually.
So, when did you trigger it?
Way back pa po nung nag-start yung IRR. Because there is a
Which is
memorandum of agreement.
Anong year?
2009?
2009. So, hanggang yun, wala pang revenue regulation memo. So, may we get, ma'am, Attorney Jessica, can you get your opinion?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and distinguished members of the committee. I would like to have Ma'am Del to answer for that question, ma'am.
We're in the presence of various RE developers here, no, and they visit this representation to follow up, no, the request of taking advantage of that incentive that were given to them in the RE law. Unfortunately,
it will be answered
Sige
by
po.
Ma'am Del.
Good morning. We received the endorsements from DOE, from various developers, yung mga geothermal, biomass, all suppliers who have applied with us were entertained. Yung hindi nag-apply, syempre hindi po namin alam. But all those who applied for BAT zero rating and were endorsed by your office plus the BOI, entertained po namin yun.
Ang understanding po kasi is they have to cover the cost first and then yun yata yung medyo matagal. No?
Yes, because we pattern the applications given to us by your endorsements. So we were after the endorsements you give us and then we process that.
Ma'am, ang request ho ng developers yung revenue regulation, so may guidelines.
Sa IRR po at saka mismo sa batas nila, sir, meron nang nakalagay eh.
Ngayon ho kasi parang nagiging case-to-case basis yata, no, if I understand it correctly from the developers. So ngayon, since maraming developers ang gustong mag-take advantage of this incentive, pero wala naman sa kanilang guidelines, no? So that's what's missing right now.
Your Honor, the regulations you are following regarding BAT zero rating is RR 16205, which is also patterned by the various investment promotion agencies like BOI and PESA. Yun po yung ano namin, sir.
So in other words, you will not release any revenue regulation regarding this?
Wala pa po. Wala
po o hindi? Hindi na ho kayo mag-release o magre-release?
Sir, as to the particular application for the renewable energy, sir, we haven't issued for an RR, but we're applying RR 16-2005 because it deals with VAT tax refunds, sir, and credit, sir.
Can we hear from Attorney Poch? No, I think you were there when you guys visited my office. Can you articulate this some more, no? From your point of view, dahil kayo po yung direktang affected.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, the issue comes when we are dealing with the suppliers or suppliers of goods and services. Under the RE law, they're supposed to, the purchase of such local goods and services are supposed to be VAT zero rated. But in the absence of revenue regulations, the suppliers cannot give us the VAT zero rating. They don't know how to bill us simply because of the lack of revenue regulations. And we have been asking the help of the DOE to do this, and I understand that the DOE has endorsed that request, but there's still no response. So what happens is that the developers have had to deal with the suppliers on a case-to-case basis. There are some who agree, there are some who don't. But of course, we are all running the risk of violating
In other words,
the law.
binabayaran nyo muna.
Binabayaran po muna namin. Or they agree not to charge it, but that's already skirting the law.
Can I get a response from BIR regarding this issue? Meron talagang problema ho, no? These are the developers.
Yes, sir, but...
So anong advice nyo sa kanila? Andito ho sila lahat.
I'll have it elevated to the Deputy Commissioner Legal. But as of present, all other suppliers of energy developers who have applied with us, we are patterning our processing with RR 16205 in relation to all other IPAs.
I think the problem here is when they purchase items, no? Hinahanapan sila ng RR, ng revenue regulation. So, because that, kailangan yun ng kanilang mga suppliers. This is where the problem is.
The suppliers, I mean the buyers are requesting for specific RR for particular on our DOA only, on renewable energy only, parang ganun.
Attorney Poch, can you?
If I may, the reason we are requesting is that we were informed by the BIR that there has to be a revenue regulation in place in order for that to be implemented. Kaya po kami, I understand it's being implemented on a case-to-case basis sa inyo, pero because we are dealing with the suppliers on the ground, hindi po nila alam whether to grant us the VAT zero rating or not. Palaging, it's a discussion point.
Parang kulang sa information, sir.
Opo,
Kasi
opo.
yung basta po may pumunta sa amin na from the renewable energy, in-entertain po.
Hindi
mga
ba
suppliers.
Mayroon bang problema kung mag-i-issue ng revenue regulation for their specific need para ho ma-settle to?
Sabihin natin sa... Wala naman po siguro, sir. I-elevate lang namin sa legal.
Mr. Chair?
Kasi very specific yung batas eh. No? Very specific, and this law is really meant to develop the renewable energy industry. But you hear it from the developers themselves. They cannot take advantage of the incentive. So
Sir,
can we correct this, Attorney Jessica?
Yes, sir. The problem, sir, if we're going to give that, sir, it is still subject with audit, tax audit verification, sir, to determine if those credits that they're asking for or the refund that they're asking for are really being used for renewable energy supplies and distribution, sir. So if in terms of the information of the frontliners, sir, we can do something about it by telling it to our superiors, sir.
Can we get a timetable, Attorney? Kasi matagal na ito, magta 10-year anniversary na itong batas. Can we get a timetable as to when can you use? Ang question ko, is there a problem to issue a revenue regulation pertaining to this? May problema ba o that can be done? Do you see any complications?
I'm still not privy with these types of sir, but
For this
I
specific
have
industry,
renewable.
may nakikita pa. You've done it with other industries.
Yes, sir.
Opo.
Meron ba? Merong sa other industry like automotive, the other industries? Na may ganitong incentive na gawa nyo na?
Ano po, sa investment promotions agencies, isa po yung pattern, 16205, RR 16-2005.
Okay.
We pattern from BUI, PESA, CESA, AFAB, lahat po yun.
Okay, ganito na lang po, no? So we can move on.
Opo.
Ako personally, I don't see any complication, no? Because the law naman is very specific. And there's a problem on the ground, Attorney Jessica. They cannot the developers are stuck. They cannot move forward. So, ang request lang nila is to issue a revenue regulation so that their suppliers will be clarified as to they can do away with the VAT charging, tama? So, can you just go back to your to the BIR management give us an indication, send us a letter, maybe no later than Friday, no? Kung ano po yung next move. Because may problema talaga on the ground.
Mr. Chair, we're happy to take a look at the revenue memorandum circular that's being referred to, and if it's appropriate, the BIR might be able to come out with a statement that this applies to our case, and that would solve the problem.
A clarificatory, whether letter, revenue regulation, whatever it is, no? But para ma-solve yung problema, attorney. All right, and then furnish us some feedback on Friday para at least umuusad ho tayo. No? And CC na lang po yung DOE. Ako nang bahala ho sa mga developer. All right. Before we terminate this issue, any last questions from the members? Because we have two more items. Wala naman po.
Last question na lang,
Sige,
Mr. Chair.
Rodel.
Last question. I'm just wondering, kanina, Commissioner Sirit answered me that they have now a system on how to review the fit rate. Now, is this...
The fit rules, sir.
The fit rules?
Yes, sir.
What about the fit rate?
Yes, sir. The fit rules are the ones that govern the fit rates. So under the guidelines, there are 4 triggers. This was issued in 2010.
Okay. Ano yung mga 4 triggers?
Review of feed-in tariffs. The NREB shall monitor and review regularly the development of RE generation and the impact of FITs and report to ERC within 3 years and every 2 years thereafter. The ERC may review and readjust the FITs in the following cases. A, when the installation target per technology as defined by NREB is achieved. So yun po yung nangyari dun sa dalawa, solar and wind. When the installation target per technology is not achieved within the period targeted. C, when there are significant changes to the costs or when more accurate cost data become available that will already allow NREB to calculate the FITs based on such methodology that shall later on be adopted by the ERC. And the other analogous circumstances that justify review and readjustment of the FITs.
Okay, so more or less that is a definite rule.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I'm just wondering why it took you so long to review, let's say, for example, the hydro. Let's say the targets are not being reached, and yet you have not even reviewed it yet.
So, kasi every 3 years po.
So every 3 years, but you know, solar has been reviewed, and then the wind.
Iba po yung naging trigger niya because na-reach niya po yung installation target.
Yeah, pero ito naman hindi na-reach ang installation. 2012, it's supposed to be 2015, di ba? So it's already 2017. It's more than 5 years. Why is it? But ganon, I do hope you can have that.
Sir, January 2015 tayo nag-implement, sir, nung feed-in tariff. So
Fit and tariff rules.
yes, hindi sir, nung rates itself.
Okay.
So bali pumasok po sila and then the data also came in yung nung 2015. The 3-year period is also in consideration of the ability of the developers to actually be able to install. The advantage po of solar is that it's easier and faster for them to
Yes.
be able to make the installations.
So when do you intend, let's say, for example, to review the hydro?
So ito na po, end of the year po. Yun na
So
po
end
yung
of the year,
niya.
we expect, you know, fit rates for the hydro.
Sir,
Yung fit rates.
after next year po. Next year pa po yun.
So how long does it take?
Sir, based on it's about mga 6 months po, including because this will have to be heard again.
So in other words,
May
by
hearing pa
first
po.
quarter.
Yes,
By
sir.
first quarter, so
Yes,
we
sir.
will expect that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kong Rodel. And with that, we terminate the first item on the agenda. The second will be about the Supervisory Authority of NEA. Let's call on Congressman Umali for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, members of this commission, I requested for this for the inclusion of this particular matter It may be parochial, but I guess it has a bearing also on the application of this power of NEA to all others, because this was somewhat, I don't know how it happened, but it was applied in the case of the electric cooperative of Mindoro, which happens to be a AAA cooperative, an awardee in the last NEA anniversary, having the most number of sitios energized under the SEP. I think from the period or as of 2016, we have about 97% of all sitios now energized, and this was through the effort of the management of Ormeco. On disaster management, I guess Ormeco can be the envy of many cooperatives in terms of responding to disaster. We were hit twice. In 2015 of December by NONA, and we were able to resolve all of our issues in Mindoro. In 2 weeks' time, all power were restored in 15 municipalities of Mindoro, and in another 2 months, all of the power distribution lines down to the sitio level were restored. And this was without any fanfare, not much issues were raised on this, and we just delivered. 2016 was another incident, Typhoon Nina, and we were hit again, and 7 or 8 municipalities were hit by this typhoon, and again in a matter of 2 months, all of the distribution lines to all of these municipalities down to the sitio level were restored. So in all of those fronts, the Ormeco management fared very, very well. As in fact, as I said, this is a AAA cooperative, and it was even awarded in 2016. In terms of programs that the Power Development Program of Mindoro initiated in 2014, our total, because we are a SPAG area, and this is going against the province and even the whole island, in 2014 we just had about 25 megawatts versus a demand of 28, and that was the cause of the many brownouts that we had in Mindoro during that time, extending to more than 12 hours. By 2015, end of 2015, we already had about 50, and now it's about 54 megawatts. A big leap, double the projected demand increase, double the projected supply increase from 25 to 54 against a total demand of about 42. So we have an excess power, in fact, in Mindoro. In fact, we are sharing the power of Oriental to Occidental Mindoro, and we're giving about 4 megawatts to the other island. Anyway, we are looped on the north side of the island. We are still awaiting for the looping, the full looping of the transmission line 69 kV down south, which is Mansalay to San Jose. And I'd like to thank NAPOCOR for providing us all the investments that they could provide us, a total of 1.2 billion, and probably to complete the loop from Mansalay to San Jose, another but I was informed by the president of NAPOCOR that this is already budgeted. So I'm so grateful of Napocor for supporting us on our transmission line. But then, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and I could not comprehend this, and I hope, and I would prefer that the Secretary of Energy clarify this in the next hearing. I would leave this matter open for the moment, because I'd rather that the Secretary of Energy himself explain to this commission as part of our oversight powers why these things are happening, most especially because he comes from Mindoro. And so I'd like NEA to clarify on the supervisory powers of NEA on a well-functioning cooperative, and I understand there are a lot of electric cooperatives which are dysfunctional, and I do not know why NEA is speaking on Ormeco, which is doing very well. I do not know at what level. I want to know if NEA is being pressured to create some disharmony in how Ormeco is performing its job, especially at this time. Bakit mo babaguhin yung management kung wala namang diferensya? Hindi ko maintindihan eh. Is that how we should do it? And power is so important in Mindoro, and if this is not resolved with dispatch, then we will have a problem. And I will be here as a member of this oversight committee to make people responsible for the acts, because this will affect our people, the Mindoreños in general, and this has got to be resolved at the soonest time possible. And this is what oversight is all about. So having said that, I would like to request NEA, Mr. Chairman, to please just focus on the legal basis and then how they applied it to the case of Ormeco, so that we will cut, you know, the many introductions that will be given, because I see a number of pages that will be used for presentation by the NEA, but I'd just like to focus on this legal basis and how they applied it in the case of Ormeco. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire who is the new head of the NEA?
Administrator Masongsong.
I see. Where did you come from?
I'm from Bukidnon.
He was a congressman during last Congress, Kong Noli.
Ganon?
Kasama natin yan.
It's either siya ang absent o ako.
He was my vice chairman, Your Honor.
Eh, ba't ka huminto?
Sa party list po ng mga ECs, mga electric co-ops.
I see.
Ang pumalit po si Kong Kaloy. Alright, Ed, can you respond please? Let's go straight to the point. Medyo medyo marami nga yung slides, but let's go straight to the point as requested by Kong Umali.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, members of this commission. I'd like to request Attorney Gouldy, the Deputy Administrator for Electric Co-op Management Services, who had been with NEA and handling the affairs such as implementation of supervisory powers over electric cooperatives, particularly on the issue of management intervention in electric cooperatives that have a problem. Looking at the issue, for example, of why the NEA takes over and electric cooperatives that had been assessed as AAA or excellently performing ECs, there may be instances that are happening in the EC while they are categorized as excellent, but there are problems that erupt at one moment that we have to act accordingly with dispatch. So specifically for Ormeco, and I'd like to emphasize that while it is true that we issued an office order, NEA office order, assigning or designating a PSEGM at Ormeco, which is a AAA. This action of NEA had also been carried out in other ECs that are similarly situated as Ormeco, like Buseco in Bukidnon. In Buseco in Bukidnon, which is also my own electric cooperative, Your Honor, because of certain problems that is being confronted by that electric cooperative where I came from. So at this point in time, Mr. Chair, allow me to please allow Attorney Goldie to be recognized.
Thank you, Admin Basongsong. Mr. Chairman, to the distinguished members of this commission, following the suggestion of Representative Umali, I will just focus on the provisions of the law relating to the assignment or designation of a project supervisor. In this connection, may I cite PD 269 as amended by 1645, particularly Section 3 and Section 5A of Chapter 2, PD 269 as amended. This is the pertinent provisions of that law pertaining to the assignment of a acting general manager. Under that law, the administrator is empowered or authorized to designate, subject to the confirmation of the NEA Board of Directors, an acting general manager and or a project supervisor for the electric cooperative where vacancies in the said position occur, or when the interests of the cooperative and the program so requires. The law itself also provides that the office order that will be issued in connection therewith also will prescribe for the functions of the said acting general manager and project supervisor. Another provision in RA 10531, which is actually the NEA Reform Act 2013, provides also that the NEA has the power to supervise and manage the operations of all electric cooperatives. It was mentioned a while ago that Ormeco is not an ailing issue. It is actually a AAA issue. What then is the applicable law for Ormeco? The law on ailing issue is not applied there. What is applicable there actually is the supervisory powers of NEA. Because if you compare the provision on ailing issue and the provisions on the designation of a PSAGM, there is a wide gap or difference. In the case of ailing issue, the NEA is empowered or authorized to take over ailing issues under certain conditions also, and proceed with private sector participation or the so-called extrajudicial foreclosure, dissolution or otherwise. But what is applicable in other cases, in cases of electric cooperatives which are not ailing EC, is the supervisory power of NEA, which does not necessarily imply that the issue should be ailing. And so therefore, there are antecedent facts and circumstances that warranted the issuance of that office order, which was eventually approved by the area board, regarding the designation of a PS AGM in Ormeco. It was preceded by a series of events, like for example, there were complaints also on the frequent brownouts in those areas. There were also letters which are actually sent to the office of the president regarding complaints, customer complaints. And if we go over the records of Ormeco, yeah, we do admit that it is a triple EC, but in the determination of the performance of the ECs, there are actually many parameters and key performance indicators. But however, in the case of Ormeco, the record will bear us out that according to the report of the DMC, you know, that Ormeco failed in the system's reliability, meaning the duration and the frequency indices with respect to outages, for example. And also, what actually precipitated the issuance of that office order designating a PSAGM was there was actually a publication in a newspaper. And may just quote a publication, a news item which was published in the Manila Standard on August 14, 2017. Tourists are preparing to leave, while visitors who book in advance have conserved their reservations in anticipation of a total power blackout in this major resort town. The blackout will last for 300 days or 10 months starting next week. The Oriental Mindoro Electric Cooperative Incorporated said, Ormeco General Manager Pat Panagsagan served notice that at 8 a.m. in the morning of Friday of August 18, 2017, there would be a total blackout if generators are not installed in Barangay San Isidro, White Beach on time. Actually, there are other events that occurred prior to the publication of this article. And so therefore, based on the supervisory powers of NEA, NEA has to take over. The takeover of the electric cooper is not permanent in nature, as can be gleaned from a series of assignments by our staff to the field. We can always withdraw this PSAGM at any time when the objective has been attained, for example. And the purpose of our PSAGM is to look into the actual conditions on the ground. What are the conditions that precipitated the so-called brownout? And eventually, NEA will not have to stay long there. And I would like to point out also that in the assignment or designation of a PSAGM, the incumbent officer in charge, actually the OIC, is not yet a full-fledged manager. Where in the past, and the records will bear us out, that there had been numerous communication requesting or even directing the PSAGM to submit necessary clearances in order that we can process his application for a permanent appointment. But he failed to do so for certain reason. I would like to point out also to this, I would like also to state that the OIC is not being removed. He is not being removed as an employee. The assignment of a PSAG does not presuppose the removal of the, he was acting, he was just an OIC. It would have been different actually if he is a full-fledged AGM because the necessary procedures and protocols would have been applied. But he is merely an officer in charge. And so therefore, it appears that he has no vested right for the position until finally he will be appointed. I think that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for those clarifications. So I took note, sabi mo, systems reliability based on some complaints.
Yes, sir.
So, ang question ko lang dyan is, so were you able to validate that before you took action?
Actually, Your Honor, this is a report which is submitted by the Distribution Management Committee. This is not
Sino po yung DMC na yan?
There are representatives from various...
From where?
From...
Can you please submit the report of the DMC that you claim to have submitted that report?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
If the DMC that is being referred to by NEA is the Distribution Management Committee, the Distribution Management Committee is actually the technical arm of the Energy Regulatory Commission. May we just request also that we will coordinate with NEA and see what this is about.
So, just for clarification, Mr. Chair, ito bang DMC na sinasabi mo is the DMC of the ERC o meron kayong DMC sa inyo?
Wala po.
So, sino ang DMC nito?
The ERC, sir.
So,
not the DMC.
You requested ERC to send a team in Mindoro to conduct an investigation. Is that what you are saying?
I am not privy to that, sir. I just don't know from the... with respect to NEA, sir, no, not the DMC.
So, at whose instance was this DMC dispatched to Mindoro to conduct this inquiry, which became your basis for issuing an office order?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm the Oversight Commissioner for the Distribution Management Committee of ERC. And actually, I am not aware of this. We will look into that and report to you immediately on the circumstances.
If I may also, sir, just to add, I am familiar with Ormeco and Omeco because these are my oversight areas. The DMC has yet to go. If it is based on an order of the ERC, we actually have an ongoing dispute resolution. But, and there was a directive for DMC to go and look at the system operations of Ormeco because it was the pilot area for the small grid guidelines implementation. And because of an ongoing dispute resolution wherein the issue is actually the dispatch protocol, and also because the Distribution Management Committee is in the process of assessing and evaluating the implementation of the small grid guidelines of the ERC, they were dispatched. But if I am not mistaken, it is they will be going there on October 4 and 5. I am supposed to be with them. This is also, Senator Gatchalian, this is the same. Yes, and there is an ongoing assessment by the Distribution Management Committee on the implementation of the pilot areas.
Thank you for those clarifications. I'm disturbed, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to request this committee to put this person under oath so that you know, this commission will not be misled by answers coming from I don't know where. Because, you know, this is very important. We cannot, you know, utter matters here that will create chaos in the in my province and will mislead this commission, Mr. Chair. So, may I request that because this is an official matter of the commission, and it is important that whoever comes before us must tell the truth.
Let me just clarify, Congressman Umali, you're requesting the officials of NEA in particular to take their oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, may I request the committee secretary to officiate the oath?
May I request the resource person to please stand up?
From NEA po.
From
Yung-
NEA.
The two officers of NEA. Attorney, Ed? In line with transparency and accountability, can I request you to stand up and take your oath, please?
Please stand up, sir.
This is a request from a member, and I think this is a fair request, no? And wala naman, no? I think this is part of the accountability process.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this investigative body? Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So anyway, so you said that this is based on a DMC report, Distribution Management Committee. So may I request, Mr. Chair, that this report be submitted to this office, which was made the basis of NEA in taking action against the electric cooperative.
Again, I want to reiterate the request of Congressman Umali to submit to us the DMC report that was the basis of your actions.
We will do so, Your
I think
Honor.
that was, to be honest about it, personally, I'm also quite confused, no? Hearing from ERC and also the arguments of NEA. And since Mr. Rivera I think was very clear that his basis was a DMC report, of which is still in the process of being undertaken. I'm also very confused, and I would like to also be clarified with this matter. So please submit to us that report, which was the basis, clearly your basis, to your action of taking over Ormeco. Please submit to us no later than tomorrow po.
Yes, Your Honor. I would just like to put it on record that there is a draft that we prepared. The DMC report as against the annual stakeholders report of Ormeco was presented before this representation, Mr. Chair. This covers DMC report from year 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. And the stakeholders report, meaning the Ormeco report of the same period is in the report. And it says here that as per PDC, as per PDC, the SAIFI, which has a limit of less than 30 in the DMC, it failed. And for SAIDI, less than 4,050, it says here failed. But in the annual stakeholders report, it says it passed. So
Anyway, Mr. Chair, you know, I'm more disturbed than before in the answer, because we are talking about 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. As I mentioned, I became chair of the Committee on Energy, and all of these initiatives came about starting 2014. And now you will penalize the general manager who was not general manager at that time for acts committed in the past. Now, in the year 2017, when all of the things that had been done had somehow corrected already all of the sins of the past or the ills of the cooperative prior to 2015. So ganun po ang gusto nyong palabasin natin na dito sa commission hearing na ito, na umaksyon kayo because of a 2015 and lower years problem without taking into account what had happened in the past 2 years, especially in the light of the Nona and Nina typhoons that hit us. And now, yung aming, kung meron man kaming brownouts doon, hindi nga lumalampas ng mga minuto lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, unlike before na it was more than 12 hours and so on and so forth. So, anyway, to my next point, at least malinaw yung pinagbabasihan na yun ang ginamit yung base, parang dinedress daw nyo yung cooperative. Mali naman yata yun. Anyway, another point that you raised is newspaper. Binalidate nyo po ba yan? Alam nyo ba ang newspaper? Abogado po ako. Chairman pa ako ng Committee on Justice. Ngayon, sasabihin mo sa akin, newspaper ang pinagbasihan nyo. Hearsay. Inalam nyo ba kung sino talaga nagsabi niyan? Naniwala kayo dun sa periodista, alam nyo dun sa amin, daming periodista dun, puro na tabloid Tapos ngayon, gagamitin yung basihan dun sa tao namin na magandang ginagawa. Pero anyway, I will go. Yun po yung basihan nila. Ang pangatlo ay yung basihan ay dahil daw po, and this will be revealed in the letter or in the show cause order that was issued, na you are faulting the GM for the sins, or hindi naman sin, pero ang sinasabi nyo ay transmission line. Ang base nyo kung bakit nyo sinususpende yung aming general manager ay dahil sa problema ng transmission line, which is beyond him because transmission line is napokor. How can you fault the GM when he has not a mandate over the requirements of the transmission line, which is napokor, which is, yung napokor po, binigyan po kami ng 1.2 billion para ayusin, at yun po ay, these are all work in progress. So you are barking on the wrong tree, suspending a GM who has no authority over a transmission line. And then finally, Mr. Chair, ang nakakalungkot pa po rito, nauna pa yung office order na tinatanggal siya bago pinag-explain. Bago inisyuhan ng show cause order. Nauna pa po yung pagtanggal sa kanya before a show cause order was issued and received by the general manager. And yung sinasabi mo, Section 4A baka mo, yung iyong basihan, ano bang sabi doon? The NEA shall, in the exercise of its supervisory and disciplinary powers under this Act, will strictly observe due process of law. Abogado ka, di ba? In-observe niyo ba yan?
That your question, Your Honor, is that the issuance of an officer order designating a AGM is not a condition under show cause order. Actually, because of the series, there was antecedent events that triggered the issuance of that. And I would like to clarify the Commission that the OIC is not being suspended. In his place,
you are under oath.
Opo, he's not being suspended.
And you are a lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Alam mo yung, siguro naintindihan mo yung, in labor, yung constructive dismissal.
Yes, sir. I know that.
Ay, yung constructive, walang ganong prinsipyo, pero this is likened to be a constructive suspension. Dahil tinanggalan mo nilagay mo yung tao doon. tinanggalan mo ng power, pati yung mga bangko, hindi na siya pwedeng pumirma, hindi na siya pwedeng mag-issue ng mga cheque and so on and so forth. Wala na siyang gagawin. Pinaalis siya sa opisina niya. Anong tawag mo doon? Hindi siya tinanggal?
Actually, we have a letter, Your Honor, that although he no longer discharges the function.
Anyway, tama ba yung sinabi ko kanina? Gusto ko lang marinig sa ano mo. Nauna pa yung office order kesa dun sa show cause order. Tama po ba yun? Isinerve nyo muna yung office order na tinatanggal nyo yung general manager bago nyo sinokos. Tama o hindi?
I cannot...
hindi mo na makalimot, hindi mo na
maalala? What happened,
maalala?
Your Honor, is that the office, the show cause order was the date of the... I cannot...
Pwedeng i-antedate yun eh. Pero yung receive, kailan ni-receive yung show cause order nyo?
I cannot remember, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman,
We'll look into this.
may I move for the suspension of the meeting for a while?
Session suspended. Session resumed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After conferring with the concerned persons and particularly DOE and NEA, I would request deferment of discussion of this issue for the next hearing.
Subject to compliance of the commitment of the people concerned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Congressman Mali. Congressman Fontabella. We will, for now, suspend the discussion of this second topic. Again, reiterating, subject to the decision of the Department of Energy to this matter. I would urge ASEC to bring this up to the good secretary to resolve this matter ASAP.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
With that, we will move to the third topic, and this is only a very brief topic. Attorney Ala, we just want to be enlightened, give us some updates regarding the transition. Let's go straight to the point of the matter. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a privilege concern. In our next meeting, may I suggest the following matters. Is there any representative here from PISAM? So, may I request the presence of PISAM officials in the next meeting? Because my concern here is my query about the outstanding financial obligations of the electric cooperatives to the NEA, whether this has already been complied with under the IPIRA law. Marami tayong kinundo noong araw eh. So I think we have to deal more with that. Tignan natin yung extent ng operations ng electric cooperatives for the moment. And then, yung ERC lang dito, di ba?
Yes.
Pakisubmit na ba sa amin ang report whether there are effective reduction of rates? Kasi main concern ng IPIRA is reduction of rates na affordable sa consumers. Hindi kami nagsabing cheap. Namin whether we have been able to comply with this. Kasi this is in line with my earlier preliminary question whether the IPIRA is really effective or not, or is it still relevant. That's my concern. So we need more details and report in the next meeting.
Your Honor, we will submit to you early on because of the mandate in the IPIRA regarding the reduction of rate. That was implemented by the ERC.
That's right. We need
we will submit you a report on that, Your Honor. And likewise, you spoke about the condonation of loans of electric cooperatives to NEA. That has likewise been incorporated in the rate cases for the electric cooperatives, Your Honor. We will provide you a summary report regarding the actions taken by the Commission on these two matters, Your Honor.
Then, isubmit nyo lang yung analysis nyo. Kasi I'd really like to review the effect of IPIRA. Matagal na ito eh.
Yes, sir.
So, it needs an oversight, since we are now in the oversight function, but we might as well consider all this so that we can submit to both houses of Congress whether there's a need to amend the IPIRA or not.
Yes, sir. We will do that, Your Honor.
Objectively, as of now, offhand, what do you think? Is the IPIRA working or not?
Yes, sir. Sir, based on my experience as one of the commissioners, Your Honor, I would subscribe to the view that IPIRA is a good law. It may not be a perfect law, but we are headed towards the right direction, considering that the wherewithal when we actually implemented IPIRA was to do away with the fiscal deficit that the government was placed into because of prior to IPIRA. So now at least it's now users pay. It's really now no longer government providing the subsidy. So it's now we are actually able to reflect the true cost, Your Honor.
In our next hearing, we would like to also be provided with the data whether the rate reduction is already working, and then ano ang relationship dito with the present costs nasa consumers.
Sir, we will be able to provide you, sir, that through the years, as a function of the economy, Your Honor, the rates of return that were accorded to investors have likewise gone down, Your Honor.
Yeah, please. Yun lang ang kailangan lang namin.
Yes, Your
na
Honor.
i-relate nyo yung, equate nyo yung rates noon as compared to how many years ago was that? 10 years? 16 years?
Sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
So it's about time we really have to conduct a total review of the overall functions of EPIRA
Perhaps, sir,
and the relevance of the
yes,
ERC
yes,
for
sir.
them.
Yes, sir. Perhaps you can do an unbundling, Your Honor. For example, when it comes to the distribution, supply, and metering, there has significantly been a reduction as a result of the PBR exercise. And then I think the lion's share is really on the generation charges. But be that as it may, as I've said earlier, considering the rates of return accorded to investors, I would like to believe that there has been a reduction, Your Honor.
Good. Now, next thing that I would like you to submit to the meeting of the Commission is, in England, we have only a single person who's a regulator. The name is Little Child. I don't know if he's still alive. Buhay pa ba yun?
I think he was the one who thought of the restructuring, Dr. Stephen Littlechild, Your Honor.
Kaya nga. So, regulator doon isang tao. Dito, commission. Because when we envisioned the EPIRA, we really decided whether a singular person or a collegial body that would determine and regulate the rates. Ngayon, nagkakagulo kayo. In an executive session, which I would like to request for the chair to conduct, will you please brief us what's really happening inside the commission?
Yes, Your Honor, we will be...
Mag-executive session tayo, no problem. When will you be available? Sa kasali.
We'll make ourselves available in accordance with your schedule, Your Honor.
We'll find a right schedule to meet.
Yes. My concern here is I'd like really to establish whether justifiable ang collegial body as a regulator or a single person. Kasi sa ilan walang gulo. Dito magulo kayo. Bago ka ganun. Diba? Pangalawa, kayo mga commissioner, for my information, this is hearsay, you gang up on your chairman. May we know the reasons why?
We take exception to that statement, Your Honor. There was no concerted efforts on the part of the commissioners, Your Honor. It just so happened that as a result of the June Villa incident, we conducted our own inquiry, and sadly, Your Honor,
I'm not interested for you to bring that out now.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tay-tay na lang. Relax lang. Mukhang masyado ka mainit.
Thank you, Kong Noli. Definitely we'll put this on the next agenda. We'll take up your recommendations and your requirements on the next JCPC meeting, which will be held last quarter of this year. And
bigyan nyo lang kami analysis, ha? Whether collegial body is better than a singular person.
Okay.
To
and
regulate.
Also, your request for an executive session will find the right date to convene.
I think this is the right group or body that should coordinate very closely the activities of this commission. Kasi umabot pa sa presidente ito eh.
All right, with the kind indulgence of Congressman Fontabella, Attorney Ala, let's proceed with the updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bearing with me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the honorable members of the JCPC. On behalf of the members of the PEMC Transition Committee, I wish to thank the JCPC for allowing us to apprise the Commission of the tasks of the committee with respect to the implementation of the EPIRA. The implementation of some of the provisions of the EPIRA, particularly the provision...
Panyar, kailan ka nag-assume?
August 1,
What year?
last month.
So you're no longer with the Senate?
Wala na si Senator Osmeña.
Lililinaw ko lang.
Wala na ako sa JCPC. Anyway, to proceed, the implementation of some of the provisions of the EPIRA, particularly the provision in Section 30 requiring the transition to the independent market operator for the WESM has indeed been long delayed. Had the timeline set by law been strictly followed, an IMO would already have been in place by now. As we know, the EPIRA requires that the IMO be formed and endorsed within 1 year from the implementation of the WESM, which was on June 26, 2006. So we are way past the 1-year period. While there had been discussions and proposals submitted, there had been no clear directions yet as to how and when the transition to the IMO is to be implemented. It is for this and other equally important concerns that prompted the creation of the PEMC Transition Committee by the DOE in order to propose a way forward for the WESM. This is not only so that the transition to the IMO envisioned in the EPIRA may be finally achieved, but equally important also so that the WESM will be prepared better to meet challenges as it transitions to the IMO. This is our presentation, Mr. Chairman. First, the creation of the Transition Committee through the issuance of DOE Order Number DO 2017-07001.
Pag-simplify mo na lang. Alam na natin yan eh.
Okay.
So we go...
Wala, yung functions, you go to the functions. These are the members of the...
Hindi, paki-highlight na lang sa amin.
Which one?
Yung overall
okay.
ito.
Alam
namin, marami ka alam niya. Pero huwag mo nang i-highlight yun.
The 5 members of the Transition Committee are myself as chairman and CEO, Attorney Juan was formerly, by the way, the executive director of ERC, Engineer Bigornia, Jose Bigornia, Attorney Jose Layog, also the NREB chairman right now, and former Commissioner Rauf Tan. These are the responsibilities of the Transition Committee as provided for in the in the Department Order. Exercise powers and perform duties of the PEMC.
Huwag mo na basahin, sige na, diretso.
Okay, sige.
Lahat naman tayo nakakabasa.
Diretso na. Diretso na. The next slide, please. This is the mandate under the EPIRA.
I-highlight mo na lang. Ano ka ba? May basahin mo pa. Tagal tayo dito eh. On the whole, ano ba?
On the whole,
sige.
The IMO should have been created, established.
Ay, di ba ba? Up to now?
It has not yet been established.
Why?
Under the WESM rules, under the EPIRA, the creation of the IMO should be jointly endorsed by the DOE
yes.
and the electric power industry participants.
Yes.
This has not been achieved yet.
Recall,
although there had been attempts.
If I recall, at that time when we were discussing IPIRA, ikaw nag-insist ito, di ba?
Yeah.
Bakit hindi mo ma-implement kayo? Nandiyan ka na.
Wala, hindi mag-agree yung industry participants and the DOE.
Kaya nga, you know fully well the intricacies of all this. Kaya nandiyan ka. Bakit hindi mo kayang madaliin yan?
Hindi ko...
Pakita mo lang galing mo sa akin.
Hindi na pa. Actually, when was that? In 2016, January 2016.
When we were discussing this, we know fully well. Kaya nga inon natin yung industry participants para lahat sila may say.
Yeah.
Now, why don't you create a committee to simplify all this? Kasi mahilig kayo sa puro meeting. Walang nangyayari sa ating bansa, puro tayo meeting eh.
Actually, sir, nag-create si Senator Osmeña in 2016 ng TWG.
Pare, Nung araw,
which,
stop ka
which
pa.
I
Ikaw
presided.
na ngayon mag-i-implement. Paspasable na yan.
Meron ng agreement ang stakeholders eh.
Oh, ba't hindi mo madali?
Because, sabi ko nga kanina, the proposal of the stakeholders should be approved also by the DOE. The stakeholders presented their proposal in June of 2016. Malapit na matapos ang 16th Congressional at the time. But up to June lang hindi na tapos hindi sila nagkaroon ng agreement. Although at that time all the industry participants have already agreed on the governance structure. Ang kilang naman dito yung governance structures eh. Because the DOE ang preference ng DOE.
Just go to the overview. Huwag tayo magdetalya. Tataluin kita. Ano ba ang dapat gawin para mamadali ito?
Well, I was presiding. I
Nandiyan
presided.
na, ha? Ikaw
Yeah,
ang
I
kasama
presided
namin.
over the TWG, and precisely I was giving my inputs on the governance structure.
Overall, ano ang gusto mo mangyari? Sige na, diretso.
Me? Personally, I won't bind my other...
Hindi, sige lang, diretso.
The governance structure that was agreed upon in that TWG was a compromise. The majority of the governor of the board, of the PEM board, is the independents, the non-stakeholders. Nag-agree sila ng 8 against 7. 7 ang stakeholders. Ang DOE kasi gusto nila entire board ay non-stakeholders or independents. Okay. But in other jurisdictions, ano kasi yan eh, there are jurisdictions na merong stakeholders. If there are stakeholders, majority ang non-stakeholders or independents.
Anong jurisdiction sabi mo? Sa ibang bansa?
Sa ibang bansa, yes.
Diba, pinag-usapan natin dito.
No, just to give
what
you...
do you think will work here in the Philippines? Kaya nag-ano tayo na sarili natin ipira.
I think what will work would be what was agreed upon by the stakeholders.
Okay, ba't di mo gawin?
The 8. Well, because DOE, as I said, hindi na-actionan nila.
Gusto mo mag-Secretary of Energy bukas? Kung ikaw Secretary of Energy, kaya mo?
Of course.
Oh, sige nga. Alam mo, madali tayo magka-plano mga gano'n.
Yeah, because I was...
Ang point ko lang, kasama ka namin sa pag-initiate ito, ipirlo. Okay. Alam mo lahat ang implications sa problema. Nandiyan ka na ngayon sa gobyerno that will implement all this. Ba't di mo kaya pabilis ito? Bilib pa naman ako sa iyo dati.
Ang dami ng secretaries na nag-ano nito since 2001.
Naintindihan ko. Galing ka sa mga mabagsik. Mga istrikto. Dinaanan mo na lahat.
But the
Ngayon na nandiyan ka na, ang tanong ko, paano mo mamamadali ito? Wala na tayo masyadong diskusyon.
Hindi,
tayong
ganito.
diskusyon dito eh.
Ganito.
Oh. Sige, diretso.
The
the
desire of the Secretary Cusi is for us to push the IMO as soon as possible.
Oh.
Anong setup, attorney?
This yung pang depende pa yan kung sa
first of
because
all,
he's waiting for our
that's the ultimate output of the transition, to recommend what structure is appropriate for PEMC.
Me personally, I would recommend that the 8-7
half.
It's not half. It's majority independent.
Sorry, 8-7.
8-7. 15. Ano?
So
8-7.
majority 8 ang independent, and then 7 ang stakeholders.
Ginawa natin ito Kaya tinawag natin deregulating the energy sector, di ba? Kaya dinideregulate natin, binibigay natin sila ng independent structure. Ngayon, ang tanong ko, bakit hindi tumatakbo? Ang role lang yun yan, see to it, kayo ang driver Nandiyan na yung kotse, patakboy mo na. Nung araw, ang dami mong iniisip, ang dami mo sila suggest. Nandiyan ka na, ba't di mo patakbo?
Wala ang decision making.
Ay, nako.
Pero attorney, when will you make this formal?
As soon as possible. We're going to submit the transition committee will be, ito yung binigyan namin ng focus because we only have 5 months.
Kailan ang, ilan months to go na lang?
5 months na lang.
5 months na lang?
Oh, because we started, 7 months lang kami. We started August 1.
The ultimate output is to recommend a structure.
Yeah, and full implementation of Section 30.
And I guess this will be accompanied by analysis and observations.
Yeah, we will do that.
All right. And then any significant findings? Ilan months na ho kayo doon? 2 months, ano?
2 months na kami, makaka 2 months na.
May any significant findings that the commission should ought to know? Meron pong...
Yeah, we're looking at some of the design, the market design. Medyo masalimuot ito because as you very well know, napaka-complex ng power industry, lalo na itong sa WSM. So, but we will try to...
I know you're only there for 2 months pa lang, so I'm sure you guys are still doing a lot of analysis. No?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
How about the may mga plano? I've been hearing a lot of things, no? Like for example, yung sa Mindanao. No?
Yung sa Mindanao nasa trial operations ngayon yun.
Kailan magiging permanent ho yung...
May mga requirements pa ho kasi. We will still have to yung new market assessment system, marami pang requirements, but
anong timetable, Attorney Ala?
We're hoping that fourth quarter of the year.
Anong timetable maging full?
Our original timetable is fourth quarter, so by December, but kailangan pa ng approval ng ERC on the PDM, yung price determination methodology, which is a requirement under the APIRA.
So what timetable are we looking at?
Sige.
If I may, sir, we've actually just conducted the hearing on the price determination methodology, considering that the market now has a new MMS and there are different steps that will have to be implemented in the market, like for example the 5-minute interval, which has already been accommodated in the new MMS. This will have to be taken into account also in the price determination methodology, which is now the subject of a hearing. We've had 2 hearings so far in Visayas and in Luzon. We just had our hearing also in Mindanao, but we also intend to have 2 more hearings in the island of Mindanao, considering that the operation of a market is novel in that island. So we intend to have one in Cagayan de Oro, also in General Santos, Your Honor, to explain what the market is, the importance of having a market in Mindanao, as well as the ramifications on the price determination methodology, Your Honor.
Can you submit to us, Attorney, the timetable, including the consultations and the activities that ERC will be undertaken?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So we will have some form of idea as to when will we finally have an independent market in Mindanao. I think marami po nag-aantay ho dyan eh. And then another thing, how about the reforms? Like for example po yung mga intervals, no? I know there's a lot of new projects that were being planned in the past, no? The reductions of the intervals, ano nang nangyari doon?
Attorney Juan will.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The new MMS, which is actually procured already, pursuant na rin dun sa mga circulars earlier issued by the DOE. So this new software that will be used to incorporate yung bagong PWSM design, which includes yung shortening of the trading interval. Kasi ngayon po, it's hourly yung interval. It will be reduced to 5 minutes. So, masyadong mas magiging pino na yung trading natin. This is part of the NMMS, and as soon as there is already clearance or approval from the ERC on the PDM, kasi naka-incorporate na rin po doon yung price determination methodologies na gagamitin together with the new MMS. So yun na po ang magiging implementation. But part na rin po nung nire-review ng Transition Committee is yung readiness nung lahat ng stakeholders in the implementation of this new market design. Aside from the 5-minute interval din po kasi, meron din changes in the pricing, whereas before, ngayon po, as of present, we have the ex-ante and ex-post pricing. Ngayon, under the new MMS, wala na, isa na lang po ang magiging presyuhan, kung ano na yung in-offer, kung ano yung lalabas, and then kung merong maging problema, diretso na i-rerun, so magkakaroon na rin ng presyo for that particular trading interval. But of course, for these 5-minute intervals to be operationalized din po, kailangan din in place na rin, like yung sa mga generators, in place na rin po yung kanilang mga paraan para sila po makakomply naman dun sa schedule ng kanilang pagpapatakbo sa kanila by the SO. At ganoon din po, yung traders nila dapat already are equipped with the capacity for them to be able to trade doon sa ganun kabilis. Tapos doon po sa metering, yung sa metering service providers, kailangan din po kaya na nung mga metro nila na magbato ng data on 5-minute intervals. So, kasama po yan lahat doon sa assessment of the readiness, and also kung yung jump from the 1 hour to 5 minutes ay kakayanin in one go, or part din po nung tinitingnan namin is if there should be a transition, say from 1 hour, kung po pwedeng 15 minutes muna, and if this is possible, magkano po yung cost niyan? Kasi kailangan meron din babaguhin dun sa software. Magkano naman yung magiging cost niyan on the side of PMC to implement that. Pero yun din po naman, kung in place na rin yung rules, like for the 5-minute interval, kasi ganun din po yan yung, dahil po tayo gross pool tapos net settlement, yung pong, di ba, the following day, magde-declare na yung mga generators nung kanilang bilateral contract quantities, alam nila yung presyo. Titingnan din po kung appropriate ba na ganoon. Yun din po yung part ng tinitingnan namin. Baka kasi naman po, magkaroon sila ng opportunity for them to be able to take advantage ng alam nila yung pricing the day before, and then they will declare kung ano yung bilateral contract quantities nila at kung ano yung considered na tin-rate nila sa spot.
Actually, Nino, I have two questions. No? First, yung readiness. Kasi malaking jump from 1 hour to 5 minutes. No? I don't know if the GenCos are ready and equipped to do that. Then second, at the end of the day, we're doing this to further improve competition and reduce prices, hopefully. No? Making the market more efficient. No? Have you studied how much will be the impact? Kasi hindi naman tayo mag-undertake just to from 1 hour to 5 minutes without impact to the consumers at the end. No? This is actually investing also. You're going to spend money to change the software and system. Have you studied whether this will have any impact to the retail price?
Sa retail price, hindi pa po kami umaabot sa hanggang ganon. Pero ang nakikita din po kasi naman yung benefits. In the first place, kung bakit po nagkaroon ng ganong decisions to say shorten the intervals, dahil as it is now, nagkakaroon din po ng problema dun sa pag-comply naman ng mga generators dun sa dispatch schedule. Meron din mga nagiging problema dun sa ramp up, ramp down. Ngayon kung every 5 minutes na lang po, hindi na ganun kalaki kasi dati ang trading interval na 1 hour, ang target mo is after 1 hour, mahaba yung tinatawid ng generators, either pataas or pababa. Depende kasi kung nagsusunuran yung mga generators dun sa dapat na ramp up rate or ramp down.
I would assume dahil maiksi na yung ramp up, magastos yung ramp up eh. No? I would assume mag-i-improve ang presyo. No? Ramp up is very expensive, ha? So,
meron pong sinasabi kasi kung masyadong mahaba yung nagiging trading interval at nagkaroon ng original na dispatch schedule, pero nagkaroon ng hindi nasunod yung ramp up, for example, bumabad yung tumatakbo na, at because of that, hindi nakapasok yung mas mura, so may impact yun doon sa magiging ex-post pricing. Kaya kung every 5 minutes, wala na rin yung ex-post pricing, ex-ante na, kung ano na yung lumabas na clearing prices. So, maliit na lang din yung tinitingnan na ano. Pero trade-off din nga. Kasi nga, every 5 minutes, tapos yung volume ng data na papasok, kailangan in place din yung system mo, yung storage, dapat adequate din. So, kailangan lang din sir titingnan din yun.
Sa later date na lang, no? I know you guys are still in the process of looking at the operations much more in depth. We'll ask for a briefing on that 5-minute interval. Ako ang concern ko at the end, we're investing, we're changing the system for the benefit of the consumers. No? Hopefully, merong benefit kahit papano in that. No? Aside from helping the GenCos operate efficiently dahil dun sa curve, but hopefully, somehow, the consumers will benefit from that efficiency. No? So, on a later date na lang, all we want is really to, first of all, meet you. No? The members will meet you. And then second is to get some quick updates regarding the transition activity. No? Yeah, yeah. I'm okay, Mr. Kong Noli. Let me just remind everyone, no, marami tayong submission. In fact, the members have really echoed their strong reminder to DOE to submit to us yung mga nahuling requirement nila, no? And then today's requirement, please submit to us so para hindi na po maging issue ito. I have a lot on the list. Hindi ko na isa-isahin. Just look at the transcript and we'll provide you with the list rin. We'll provide you with the official communication. No? With that, any last words, Kong Noli?
No, next meeting lang, Mr. Chairman, we would like to have a more in-depth evaluation of the effect of the IPIRA. Isa-isa lang natin from the standpoint of NEA at saka other energy players.
We will definitely put a lot of weight to the comment of the father of IPIRA. No? So thank you, Kong Noli, for your presence and your insights. And thank you, everyone, for participating. Gandang hapon po. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Mas magaling ka.